No, he didn't.
Girl. Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
And yes, he will. Yes, he will.
Mhm.
Hey, y'all. Welcome. Make sure you are subscribed to the podcast. Don't forget, you can also listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts, but you can also watch this exact same episode with our lovely faces on YouTube. And subscribe and like. And YouTube is also a wonderful place to leave your comments because we want to hear what you guys think too. A lot of you are sending comments via social media, which is cool too. We'd love to hear from you, but at least on YouTube, the reason why we encourage is other people can see your comments, and then that might cause them to comment or start the community conversation that we would love to have.
Mhm.
All right. So today we're talking about, we've heard the old adage, if he wanted to, he will. I shared one of my TikTok videos today about the time, and I know you remember this because it was just last year when I was dating this guy and we were
That time.
that time. It's like, you remember this just happened. And I saw a potential future with this person. He was not my boyfriend, but we had been dating for a couple months, and I had interacted and engaged with him in a way that was more serious than others. I had done some things, but to show that I was taking this situation seriously and like that. So when we were at dinner and he said he knew he would be remarried within 2 years, and I kind of was like, my first thought was, oh, wow, this is moving fast, He's telling me something. He's telling me something. It's kind of like a pre-proposal over here, right?
Mhm.
And I said, you already know that? And he said, it's not so much about the person, but the time. And I knew in that moment, oh, so it ain't me. So that's how you tell me it ain't me. Because what I know with another woman, a younger woman, or a woman who does not listen to a man, or a woman who has not had as much experience would have heard, oh, okay, we'll get married in 2 years.
I'm going to stick around for 2 years and we're going to get married.
And we're going to get married in 2 years.
Yeah.
And even at the 5-year mark, she's still going to hold on because she said, well, he said 2 years. So I know he's, what I heard was, it ain't you, sis. Now, we'll use an example of someone you dated last year. And even though you're not dating this person right now, that person articulated a plan for you in his life.
Specifically, yes.
Specifically, not just his timing.
Right.
It was about you. Tell me about the difference of, it doesn't matter about the person, but the time and your
right. Well, because he included me in the conversation from the beginning, it wasn't like, oh, I want to get married. It was like, I see myself with you. And he catered his vision to where my life was versus where his life was. I mean, as far as moving in together, as far as, what our bills, we talked about money. We talked about how much we pay in bills each month and how we could merge. These were things that were specific to me in my life and not just, this is what I want to do. I want to get a joint account with my fiance when we get engaged. I want to live here. We like, it was very catered towards me, so.
And that's interesting because you dated someone before, tried to date someone before that you felt like he just wanted to insert woman to make that story.
Right.
So what was the big difference when you felt like this guy just wanted you to be on his vision board and be the bride and didn't care about you versus this other guy who was very intentional?
You remember I dated 2 guys like that. What kind of dated? I dated one and then I met another that we met in the grocery store at that time. But anyway, but they gave me the same vibe where they actually never asked me, what my thoughts were for anything. It was more like, oh, you just move in with us and then we start our life together. And it had nothing. It wasn't a specific conversation about either like how much money I made, where I see myself career-wise, do I see myself moving, where do I want to live, blah, blah, blah. It was more of, I'm trying to get married. You look like a good candidate.
Right.
So let's do this. And it was, they never expressed interest in me as a person. I felt like anytime we talked, it was like, except, the elementary, non-deep level stuff, like just, oh, you're beautiful. Oh, you're it was like, they're looking for a trophy wife and I'm not saying I'm a trophy wife. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying they were looking for somebody
you check off important boxes.
Oh, she got a job. She got a house. She got a car.
She ain't got no kids,
okay,
she ain't got
cool.
no baby daddy. She ain't,
Right. Yeah. So I did check off those boxes, but it wasn't about you. It wasn't about who I was as a person. This last guy I dated, he was very interested in who I was. Very invested in me as a person. As opposed to just trying to slide me into a slot. So
that's a huge difference. And even that terminology, I think, is perfection. He was invested in you. And even though it didn't necessarily progress to that in that timing, it still was a difference in communication. It was still a difference in what y'all were doing, because I think it's very easy to date somebody and think because you've been dating for 2 years, this is your person. But if you probably ain't, you probably ain't. Or even if you say, oh, we've never talked about it. And this is also, let me put this caveat, at a certain age, I'm talking about, we're mature, grown adults, you know. I'm not saying that everybody you date, you want to marry. I'm not saying any of you want to get married. I can speak for myself. I tend to date for companionship, not necessarily, oh, and then we're going to get married. I'm just trying to find somebody to kick it with for a steady amount of time with no drama, you know. So I'm like, so I can articulate this in saying that that's not even my end game with anybody. But it's like, listen, if this guy is talking about his timing and what he wants, and like you said, you are not considered in that conversation. It's not when you finish school, or with your career, or if you put your house on the market, or, you know, like with you, he ain't talking about you. He just ain't talking about you. He is literally, he's talking to you. And you think because you're dating him, or you think because you're his girlfriend, that he's talking about you. He is literally talking about himself and his plans for his future.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
It probably is not going to involve his plans for his future, and it ain't you. And so when that man was able to say to me on a date, and I saw a future with him. Now, again, and even when I think about it, he was not my boyfriend, but we were both older and kind of settled type personalities. And so conversations we had made me look at him as a more serious candidate as a long-term thing. Right. And it was like, okay, the way he's talking, the way he's positioning things, okay, this dude is wanting to kind of feel some security or stability with me. And but in hindsight, was it with me, or was it one of the points I'll point out is when we first started dating, there was separation as far as what cities we lived in. And he would always comment on, if I lived in his city, we would have a better shot. And so I was able to arrange to live in that city, you know, and then he disappeared. And so it makes it seem like, well, it wasn't about if I could live in that city. He was saying he would prefer to date someone local. You see what I'm saying?
That was in general, just in general.
He wanted to date someone local. So me becoming local did not make me someone he wanted to date. You see what I'm saying? And so now in hindsight, obviously, when you hear something or you participate, you're like, okay. I don't think he was talking to me about that. I think he was just telling me what he's going to do.
Yeah. He wasn't talking to me about me.
He was not talking to me about me, because the question is not, well, what do you see for yourself, or what is it that you want? And, you know, I've shared other things about when I've told him what I want. Those things weren't received well. This is also the same guy that when I told him my list of the things that I wanted out of a basic common sense relationship, he said, and his name is Jesus. So yeah, looking back, again, more dates to add to the time machine to go back and be like, girl, go get your time back. But one, we want to give people the benefit of the doubt. I know of several situations where a man has told a woman, I can think of 3 situations off the top of my head, where a man has told a woman at the beginning, hey, I know I'm not attracted to you in that way, or I know that you probably are not the woman I'm going to end up with, or hey, I had a friend, a guy told her, I've been in love before and I know this ain't it. And these relationships still continue though, even though this person articulated that. And so what happens is, because the guy still wants to spend time with you, and because the guy still wants to have access to you, you now think he has changed his mind. Oh, he spoke too soon. I literally could potentially actually be the one. Yeah. What really has happened is he feels good. He told you how he felt, and you still giving him access. So I'm having the best day ever. I'm going to have somebody to kick it with until I meet the one I want.
And my conscience is clear. I sleep well at night knowing that.
I ain't lied to nobody.
And you know, we've talked about those types of situations before. I don't know that have you ever had a guy say that to you?
No, but I would say the closest I've gotten to it is the guy who didn't want to date me at all in case it didn't work out, but he still wanted to.
Okay, yeah. But that's Yeah, and now he was trying to communicate that in so many words. Like
right. He didn't want to failed me. He didn't want to be in a failed relationship with me, but he still wanted to have access to me. And I was explaining to him, yeah, we good. Just take care.
And I think I've heard that in so many terms where, you know, I don't know if I can live up to whatever you got, you know, that's a cop out. But when someone is that blunt and says, yeah, this isn't what I want, then I would appreciate it. I would appreciate the conversation, and I would bid them well, because especially if you feel this, if you don't feel the same way, or if you feel the same way, like, yeah, you're not my person either, you know, like I'm not, you know, we're not going to ever be that, then that's fine. But you open your heart to some broken feelings if you stick around to somebody who's already told you you're not who I want, and you want them though. You know what I mean? So you're not going to change nobody's mind. That's like, stop it. Like, let's just leave it.
Tough. Because there are always, all of us know circumstances and situations where the affection was not mutual. And it might be that I like somebody in a way that they didn't like me, or vice versa. But I don't think you should still just carry on and continue interacting with that person. I have another friend, I just thought about this. I think she met this guy on a dating app, and she introduced him to me, and I didn't know who he was. I was like, who's that guy you introduced me to? She's like, well, it's not really any chemistry, but he's cool to hang out with. I was like, okay, as your friend, you literally didn't like that guy at all. You've never mentioned him before. And she's like, oh, I don't know if you saw me. I kept putting my hands in my pockets because he always reaching for my hand. So in my mind, go by yourself. You ain't got to have him to go. You don't even want him to touch your hand. And he's obviously feeling something for you that you do not feel for him. He got to go.
I had to end something with somebody when I didn't want to hold their hand in public. It's like, yeah, I don't like it. You know, but sometimes you don't know.
That tells you that. That tells you.
But it was like, oh, whoa.
No, and you might not know until that moment, like, you know what? I thought we was cool until I realized we literally is not cool. Like, I don't want anybody to think I'm with you. I don't want you to touch me like I'm with you. And so, but you might not know that until you get in the situation. And I think it's good at this age that you got to be able to say. And so think about it. I think we talked about this a little bit with Toby and Giwe and his wife. Because remember, they went a little viral because he was somehow, he wasn't feeling his wife fat when he first met her. And then she held on or whatever. I totally believe that you can meet someone, not have a romantic interest or connection, build a platonic friendship, and grow into a romantic connection. I do believe that can happen. But we're talking about you're swiping a dating app. There is no chemistry, there is no interest, or you have met this person under whatever circumstances you meet people, and they tell you, I know this ain't it, but we can still kick it.
I mean, you know,
I guess it would depend on how bored you are. You know, it also depends on what you're doing to kick it. This person might have a wonderful lifestyle that you can borrow moments from, and it's better than if you was just sitting at home, right? And so as long as you are aware that you are a placeholder isn't necessarily a bad thing, because if you know you're the placeholder, then okay, they just a placeholder for when you meet yours too. And we good. We just hanging out. That could potentially be another way to say peaceful companion.
I think the best thing about it is just to be honest with yourself and what you want.
Yeah.
And it could be a momentary thing. Is it momentary?
It could be momentarily or a
momentarily. That's I'm like momentary.
I think both can be true.
I don't know. But either way, it could be a moment.
Right.
Or it can be a future goal, but you need to decide what you want, and be honest with yourself about what you want.
Don't let somebody
tell yourself, and don't let nobody else. Don't let him or your friends or anybody else tell you what you want. That's the key. Be honest with yourself.
Let's talk about that. Wait, let's talk about that. And okay, we touched on this a little bit before.
Okay,
that is probably, in my experience, the number one failure I have suffered from. I do not do people's opinions in real life. I do what I want to do. I can take insight from people, but I usually don't do opinions. In dating, it is the only space in my life I have ever allowed people to convince me of something that I already knew was not true.
And you know why?
Including my burnt up grill.
Right. No, you know why? You know why though?
I'm saying that wasn't the only time, but you know how somebody say, well, girl, you being unrealistic. Well, girl, just wait and see what he has to say. Well, girl, what he did. That's the only space where I've allowed somebody else's thoughts and opinions make me say, well, okay, maybe. And why is that? I mean, used to be, not now.
No, yeah, because when we first met each other, I think we shared similar stories about dating and blah blah blah. And it was the one I would say in that moment, like, you know, this was like, how long ago we met?
Maybe about 9,
almost 10 years
ago. Yeah,
9 years ago. And we were obviously in a different mind space than we are now. But when we first met, that was the one failure of our lives in our eyes. You know what I mean? That was the one thing we had yet to get right. And so you know,
open to outside information.
Yeah. And you program yourself. Well, I ain't never got it right, so I guess what I'm doing is not right. So
listen to somebody. That's true. Yes, that's very true.
That's what happened. And so, but as we've matured, as we started this podcast and started talking things out, like, you know what? No. Or either one or two things happen, and probably both. One, we realize if that's a relationship, we don't want it. And two is maybe we don't want that type of relationship at all. You know what I mean? Like, you know, so.
But it's very true.
So I think
that's very true. And I think for a lot of women, we feel like we have accomplished certain things that we set out, whether it's, okay, well, I got the degree. That's the only reason I started college. Or I got that job. That's why I sent in the resume. Or I bought that house. That's why I applied for the mortgage. So it's not like we see things as these great accomplishments. We just accomplished something we set out to do. And a lot of times when you set out to date, there is some end game. Like I said, I've never been anti-marriage. I just thought I would end up marrying somebody that I was with. But because I haven't ended up with anyone, I'm not stuck on, I want to be married and let me find somebody to do that with. I'm like, hey, one day I will just enjoy being around somebody every day. And then we might decide that would be a great course for us because we like each other. It's crazy how many people are married that don't like each other. It's crazy how many people are dating that don't like each other. It's stressful. He about to come home and start fussing about this. Or, okay, I already know this ain't going to be right. I know every time we take a trip, it's going to be, you know, and it's like, or the alternative could be around people. And the same thing with platonic friendships or girlfriends. You just have girlfriends you ain't going to travel with no more. Family members that you just can't be around because I love you, but it's when we together, it ain't my vibe. It's so many people are in romantic partnerships. And I use the term romantic and partnership very loosely because they not having no romance and they ain't with no partners. That I have realized I would never take advice from anybody else in that space again. And I realized now that you said it in that way, it makes perfect sense that because I had never so-called succeeded in that space, I was more open to taking other people's information that still was not ringing true for me, was not authentic for me. I did not feel comfortable in those spaces. And I mean, the guy who forgot my birthday, you were with me. I won't even want to say forgot my birthday. He knew it was my birthday and chose not to communicate or acknowledge it. Yeah, he knew it was my birthday. And that our married friend said, oh, girl, that ain't nothing. Or if you watch a sitcom, the husband ain't going to remember the birthday, the anniversary, to pick up the kids from school or nothing else. And so, but it was a married friend that, you know, said, don't expect it. Married women say, girl, well, that ain't nothing. And they'll tell you a horror story from their relationship, or they'll tell us we're unrealistic in thinking that there should be communication or effort or honesty or integrity or plans or intentionality. Girl, you unrealistic. Who you gonna date? And his name is Jesus. And you know what? I would just rather ride this thing on out with Jesus then. We'll do that. We'll do that. Jesus don't be bothering me.
If that's what it's gonna take.
Jesus stays on the main line, baby. You know what I'm saying? He ain't never told me it's like he's in medical school. He is there when I need him. He answers when I call. So yes, let's do that. But it is one of those things where that space, a lot of times, if you have not succeeded in that space, you are more open to try things that you should not try. Listen to things, accept things you should not accept because you're thinking, what do I know? I've never gotten
and to be fair to some married people, because I know there are some people who are in happy relationships, their spouses probably still get on their nerves, just like friends and family get on our nerves sometimes. We understand that. But I think and it goes back to being honest with yourself. What are you willing to allow or willing to put up with? And not even just put up, you know, what are you willing to deal with? That, but ultimately you can go to sleep at night and you feel good about yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're not
like I made the right
that.
decision for me, and trying to just fit everything into one box. Like my relationship doesn't have to look like yours, and your, you know, because I'm only going to allow, you know, things that make me feel good at the end of the day. And that's going back to being honest with yourself and saying, okay.
And that's a wonderful point, because you're going to have to learn a person, and everything they do that's different from you or that you have to get used to is not a deal breaker and shouldn't be a deal breaker. You learn that person, you respect that person, just like you praying that we were saying that they learn you and respect you, and uniquely don't just say, oh, well, you're a woman, so you should do this. Is she don't like to do that, so that's why I handle it. You know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it go back and forth that way, because it might be, you know, you've never been married, you never lived with the man, you never been in a long-term relationship. You might think every day he comes home, well, why don't he talk to me? Okay, or you learn he needs some time to just chill out for a minute. He been on all day. Don't go talking to him about nothing within the first 45 minutes to an hour. You know, you learn your person of how they need to be handled. And not say, oh, well, because he don't want to do this, then we ain't talking about that. We talking about.
No, we're not talking about that. But that's what I'm saying. But we're talking about the things that, you know what I mean? You got to be all about self-care.
Yeah.
And that's the main point. Like, just, you know, just listen to you. Trust your own instinct. Trust your own feelings. You know what I mean? And once you know yourself as much as you do, you should be able to move through life and not have to worry about what other people say, you know? And
it really is about trusting yourself, even in spaces you've never been in before, because you are fully equipped to protect yourself. Your intuition is for you. We always know better. We always look back and say, something told me. I already knew. I should have listened to my first mind. We just want to say, as you mature and grow up in yourself, trust yourself more. And you don't have to have no documentation of why you know. Just, you know, just be okay with knowing. And be okay with knowing, because God forbid we have put ourselves in harm's way or in situations that we can say, I knew that was going to be some mess. And I did it anyway. And here we are. I told you so. So don't waste no time on nobody that is literally wasting your time. And they usually will let you know. They will let you know early on that I ain't here to waste your time, or they will let you know early on, I'm really not concerned about your time. This is about
forget what
pay attention. Just pay attention. Just pay attention. Either way, I go. All right. Until next time. Oh, no, he didn't.
Girl, yes, he did.